Welcome back, students. Translations Part 2. And I've got an example ready to go. Y equals 1 over x minus 2 minus 3. Now, you'll notice something here right off the bat that I'm going to change. This minus 3. I don't like these numbers hanging around like that. I'm going to bring that over to the other side and then make my analysis. Okay? So here's what I got. Okay, so now I'm going to do my analysis. I would like to analyze what are we doing to the x's and what are we doing to the y's. Now x's are my right and left stuff. I see here the number that would turn that to 0 would be 2, positive 2. So that means that's 2 to the right, 2 in the positive direction. And then I look at the y stuff and I go, well, what would turn this to 0? It would be negative 3. Or in other words, it's like saying 3 to the left. Okay, it's like 3 in the negative direction. So that's my analysis. And what's my basic function here that I'm moving around? If I ignore this minus 2 and this plus 3, the actual function that I'm moving around or translating is y equals 1 over x. And remember, it really helps if you remember what the function basically looks like. We know it's this basic function here. It's got two parts to it. Okay, one down here in the negative zone, the other in that positive zone. And it has a vertical and a horizontal asymptote. Now, a graph like this is probably made easiest if you actually just shift the framework or the vertical and the horizontal asymptote. Instead of thinking of moving each little key point in the graph, why not just kind of take the whole thing as it is and just shove that whole thing where you want to put it. So, all right, I'm going to clear the screen here. So I got yes, I just got to try to remember this here. It's y plus 3 and x minus 2. Okay, so y plus 3 and 1 over x minus 2. All right, now let's bring up the grid. Now here's what I want to do now. I know that this was moving left or right. It was right 2 or to positive 2. So there's where it's kind of the new location of the vertical asymptote. So I'm just going to lightly, with a dotted line, put that in there. And it kind of gives me a little bit of a framework from which I'm going to work from. This guy here was going to negative 3, so down 1, 2, 3. So now I'm going to, again, same method. With a dotted line, show that's the new location of the horizontal asymptote. And now really I want to draw the same graph that I had, the one that I memorized, 1 over x. And I'm just doing it in this new location. So luckily I remembered those key points, you know, like 1, 1, a half was up 2, and then 2 was up a half. Okay, and then in the negative part there was negative 1, negative 1. There was negative 2 and down a half, and then negative a half and down 2. And that, all that's relative to these asymptotes, right? So, all right, so now I'm going to kind of draw in the graph, and look at that, I got a pretty good version of this graph. And I've analyzed my translations, and all is well. Okay, so not even a half bad version of the graph. And that's kind of all there is to it. So let's do one more example, and then we're going to leave this and look at some other transformations. So let's clear the screen, and let's look at another one. Let's look at, what should we look at? What's another good function? Y equals. Too often the questions are given in that explicit form, so that's what I'm going to stick to here. Let's go with the absolute value of x plus 4, and then we'll go with plus 2. All right, so first thing I would do is I'd move that plus 2 to the other side. So then I can be totally consistent in my analysis. Okay, in my analysis, what am I doing to x? Well, it looks like -4. Yeah, which is like saying 4 to the left. What about the y? Well, it looks like +2 or up 2. Well, there you go. I'm ready. Oh, one more thing. What's the basic shape of this graph? Nothing to it. It's a V shape, right? You got key points like 0, 0, and 1, 1. And then there's the same thing happening over here on the left side. So now I'm going to get the grid, and I'm just going to go ahead and draw the transformed function. So what do we got here? Well, we got everything is shifting 4 to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's do that. And you notice I like to basically redraw my shifted y and x. And my y is now up at +2. Okay, I find this the easiest way, rather than to try to work with a very complicated function. If you get your shifting out of the way, you're basically drawing the same thing that you've already memorized, but in a new location. See, I'm just going to redraw this, absolute value of x, but I'm drawing it over here. So I'm treating that as 0, 0, and then I've got my 1, 1, and I've got my -1, 1. And I'm going to click on the line draw thing here, so even draw it decently. Look at that. Nothing to it. And so that's why it was so important to kind of memorize the basic function, because when you throw translations in, all you're doing is redrawing it in some new shifted place. And I think that's probably good enough. I think that's where we're going to stop, and we're going to catch you later with some other really cool stuff.